Hello friends, I am Ankit and welcome to my YouTube channel. This video is going to be about motion, one of the most fundamental concepts of physics. As you must have noticed, the title of this video was an investigative approach to understand motion. I think I must explain the reason why I gave such a title. I believe that if you think about something before studying it, the learning process becomes a whole lot easier. So this happens because your brain tries to recollect all the information that you might have come across and experienced in your life and tries to form an understanding out of it. So sometimes if your experience is vast, the understanding is good. Sometimes it is not complete. So in which case, after doing this activity, you go and study about something, your brain is able to pick up the missing links fast and you understand the things better. So we are going to try and do a certain similar thing with motion today. We are going to think deeply about motion. We are going to think assuming that it has not been discovered yet. And we are the first to think about it. So we'll be investigating the idea of motion. But before we do that, I think we should be able to answer the question, why even do we need to study motion? Why is it even important? Well, if you're wondering about the answer, I have a way that can lead us to that answer. If ever I'm faced with such questions, what I do is I try to imagine that the particular thing in question doesn't exist. And then I try to imagine the scenario without it. So in this case, what I'll do is I'll imagine that all the motion in the world ceases to exist. Can you imagine what will happen if all the motion in the world is just wiped out, like Thanos' snap? What will happen? All the living things won't be able to move. Everybody you know will become a statue, but we all will be a statue, but without the liberty to think, because that also requires movement of electron inside your brain. So, do you imagine that lack of motion will just make all the life in the universe lifeless? You can't think, you can't walk, you can't do anything. You wouldn't even know. So, what good are you as compared to a statue? So, okay, this was about the living things. What will happen to the non living things? I can see a lot of water in the picture. So, let's take the example of water cycle. We all know that sun's rays heat up the water, which evaporates and then later condenses to form clouds. And the clouds rain. Now, try to imagine, is any of the process that we just discussed possible without the presence of motion? If motion wiped out, will anything happen? Obviously not, because the raindrops can't come down on earth. Water cannot evaporate, it cannot form clouds. So all of this will not happen. We can take example after example and we'll end up concluding that motion is important for them. If there is no motion, those phenomena just stop. In other words, motion is a really very important aspect of life and in fact everything in it. Is this reason good enough for you to study motion? Well, you might say that that is not going to happen. So let me show you some other perspective. The lack of motion clearly seizes all the physical phenomena of the world. So think of it in the reverse way. Can an understanding of motion help us understand how the presence of motion enables those phenomena to happen? If yes, then it will be wonderful and it will be, I should say, great in terms of physics. Because the goal of physics, the subject that we are studying right now, is to understand the way the world works. So, now are you convinced? I hope so. So, as I was saying, the goal of physics is to understand the way the world works. But can you imagine what are the means available to us to find that out? Any ideas? Well, let me tell you. It is observation. We observe the world very closely, and then we'll have to think about it. We'll have to make sense out of our observations. So we'll have to observe deeply. We'll have to make an understanding out of it. That will obviously lead us to some questions. We'll have to work in order to find the answers to those questions. And the way to do that will be to design experiments which answer our questions. And we'll have to account for new observations. And if needed, we'll have to change our understanding. That's how scientific studies are done. Something like what we are doing right now. So now I think we are mentally prepared to investigate the idea of motion. Let me tell you, the branch of physics which deals with motion is called mechanics. Mechanics is subdivided into two parts. One of them is called kinematics, and the other one is called dynamics. What we do in kinematics is we observe or we represent how a motion is happening. And what we do in dynamics is we find out the reasons why motion is happening in the way it is happening. Something similar to observe, then think, just like we were discussing a few moments back. Now, let's focus our attention on motion. What is motion? If you ask me, I will say that if an object changes its place, somehow motion takes place. So we are dealing with number one, an object, then its change of place. The change of place is the aspect of motion which characterizes it. Just imagine, it was because of the change of place that our attention was grabbed by this activity, by this event. So let's focus our attention or let's shift our focus to the change of place. So what happened? An object was there at an initial position. It followed a certain path. It reached a final position. In doing so, it covered some distance, let's say x meters. And the final result was, as we just said, the change of place. Now, these are the three aspects that we can think of, three different aspects of the change of place. So if we want an understanding of the change of place, we must investigate these three things. Number one, path. And right now, I should remind you that our focus right now is on observation. What is happening and how is it happening? So, number one, the path. The path which the object followed can be seen and recorded. Like at this particular time, it was at this position. There is nothing else that we can do about it. Same goes with distance traveled. We can measure the distance and that will be all that we can do about that. Third thing is the final change of place. So the object was initially at a location called initial position and finally it is at final position. So this is what the change of place is. Now let's think. If you tell this information to someone else, he'll have to imagine the whole locality and will have to think that, okay, initial position was this position, final position is that position. So accordingly, the motion resulted into this much big change of place or this small change of place. In a way, what we see is we are not giving the complete information to anyone else. Like he has to think further. So this should not be the case. When we tell anybody some information, we should give them the complete information. Or in other words, just defining initial position and final position doesn't seem to be the complete information because we have to think further on it. Now, at this point of time, I would like to introduce you to a quote by Lord Kelvin, the guy after whom Kelvin temperature scale is named. He said something which fits very well in our example. I often say that when you can measure what you are speaking about and express it in numbers, you know something about it. But when you cannot measure it, when you cannot express it in numbers, your knowledge is of a meager and unsatisfactory kind. It may be the beginning of your knowledge, but you have scarcely in your thoughts advanced to the state of science, whatever the matter may be. He said that in 1883. Now, Lord Kelvin wants us to be quantitative about any new idea that we think of. Let's understand that by an example. We all have heard about the Einstein's famous formula E is equal to mc square. It actually means energy and mass are interconvertible. And if mass converts into energy, the energy generated will be equal to mass multiplied by the square of speed of light. So, what this equation is trying to say is no matter what mass it is, the energy generated will be only equal to mass multiplied by the square of speed of light. Just imagine you take any piece of mass from the entire universe, just like this boat, and you're able to convert that completely into energy. The total energy generated will be equal to mass of the boat multiplied by the square of speed of light. Why is this important? Or why am I even talking about it right now? The reason is, did you just notice that if you choose a mass from the farthest end of the universe and try to convert that to energy, the energy generated will be this. Isn't it wonderful that each and every mass in the entire universe follows this condition? So, in a way, if we see, Einstein was able to find out something very fundamental about the world that we live in. He was able to find out some rules by which all the non-living things have to follow. So he was able to uncover some of the very fundamental basics of the creation of the world. So what I'm trying to suggest is, if we are able to describe something in terms of a quantity, any new idea that we come across, or we are able to measure it, or we can say this is equal to this in terms of a particular quantity, there is a chance that we'll uncover some of the most fundamental things that about the universe. That is, if we represent something in terms of equations or in terms of numbers or in terms of quantities, we have a chance to uncover at least the peculiarities or the hidden facts about that idea itself. So whenever we are faced with a new idea, we should try and do this. We should try to understand it so well that it can be described quantitatively. If we can't describe it quantitatively, there could be cases then we can't do anything about it. But if we can, we should. So next question is, can we quantify this change of place? Can we do that? Well, I don't know. So what do we do when we don't know? We go back to the linear equations for inspiration. I remember in linear equations, when we studied them back in our school days, there used to be a quantity which was unknown and we called it x. And then we tried to find out information regarding that quantity from the question and then deduce the value of that quantity from those informations. For example, let's say in the question there was an unknown quantity called x. And we knew that x when added to 10 gives us 20. So what we did was we subtracted 10 from 20 and found out that x was actually equal to 10. And we do the same thing here. There was an unknown, here is an unknown. There was some hidden information. Here might be some hidden information about that quantity. So let's try to find out all the hidden information about this quantity, assuming that this quantity exists. And then we'll try to think of what that quantity actually is. So let's use what we learned in linear equations, if that is possible. Now let's take the example of a motion. So this object moved from initial position to the final position. Let's say we don't know the final position. We only know the initial position. And we have this final change of place. What should happen? It should lead us to the final position. Just like you know that your weight was 80 kilograms and the change of weight after a month of workout was 10 kilograms. So you'll be able to you'll be able to find out the new weight, that is 80 minus 10 kilograms, that is 70 kilograms. So in this case, if we have that quantity, we should be able to reach the final position. So do you get it what I'm trying to do here? I'm just trying to imagine that a quantity exists. I'm trying to imagine is the next step is, if that quantity exists, what benefit will it give us? Or most definitely, what will be the impact of that quantity? So if we know the final change of place and the initial place, isn't it logical that we'll get to the final place? Because the place changed from here to there, and we have a way to represent that this is the total change of place. So if our way of representing is right, we must be able to reach the final position, even without seeing the object move. Do you get it? Well, let's take another example. Let's take the same motion. And this time we know where the object reached after the end of the motion. And we know the final change of place. So if this quantity is right, or if this quantity represents the change of place correctly, we should be able to reach to the initial position as well. So again, let me read it. I'm trying to think that a quantity exists, and this quantity, if it exists, it will help us the way I just described. Okay, so now there is another case which comes to my mind. When an object starts moving and ends up at the initial position itself. So the initial position and the final position are one and the same. That means logically the position did not change after the motion. So that quantity also should suggest that. So the final change of place must be 0, isn't it? So we have got three particular information about that quantity which we are calling as change of place. I think it's a better word would be displacement, because displacement means an act of change of place. So instead of saying change of place all the time, we'll say displacement, by which we'll mean the change of place. So this displacement thing, we know three things about that. If you know the final displacement and if you know the initial position, you will get to the final position or the final place. And if you know the final place, you know this displacement, you can get back to the initial place. And when initial and final places are the same, displacement must be 0. So what we are looking at is, we are looking in all the three cases, what we have is we have 2 points, and we are talking about going from one point to the other point. Something like a line joining 2 points. Well, can a line represent the change of place? Well, if what we can think of is, if a line has to represent a change of place, we must know what was the starting point and what was the ending point. So how we will know it on a line? Line has no such thing. Like line is a simple geometrical figure with just two ends and connected, uh, two ends connected. So if we want to show which direction the movement was, I think we can use a simple arrow and pointer to a particular direction to indicate the final position. What do you think? Can this way of representing the change of place be suitable? Well, if we don't know, and if we don't know, we'll have to find out. So let's give it a chance. So if we take a line which connects the initial and the final position with an arrow pointed towards the final position, we can represent displacement, the change of place. Now, what we did is, we came across a new idea. We try to understand that idea. We try to find a way to represent that idea. And we have come across with a logical solution which might help. We have thought of representing a line which connects initial and final position and has a particular direction. So, not just the line, we have added a direction, added an arrow to the line which gives us the direction. So, we are combining here a geometrical figure, a line which has got certain length, and a direction, just to indicate where the line starts and where it ends, to represent the act of displacement or the act of change of place. So far, it seems logical to me. Let me know your comments. So, what we should do now is we should explore about this further, because by our scientific study, what we have done is we have seemingly uncovered a new quantity which should represent the change of place. Okay, now what we'll have to do is we'll have to explore the nuances of this particular quantity. For example, see, now that whatever the motion that particular object takes or does, the final change of place can be represented by straight lines. Something like this. Just imagine that that particular aeroplane just moved and went here, or any of the other things. Just imagine all the different points that it can go. What we can do is we can represent the total change of place or total displacement by just connecting the initial and final positions, and pointing a direction to just indicate where is the initial position and where is the final position. But just imagine if that final displacement was kilometers away. Can we draw kilometer long lines? I don't think so. So what to do then? Well, don't need to draw lines. We just need to indicate the distance of that line or the length of that particular line. So the length of that particular line, and we need to find a way to show the direction in which that length is headed. That line is headed. So what can we do in order to do that? So basically, what we are faced with here is how to represent a way where we can show the direction, or we need a way to we need a way to represent the direction in a standard way which everyone can understand, and we'll just describe how far the displacement has happened. Do you know any way to do that? Well, first of all, we'll need to consider all the possible directions. Not a single direction should be left. So what could be the way to do that? Well, I know this, that if you draw a sphere, which is a ball, around that particular initial position, and connect the initial position to all the different points of the sphere, you will get all the different possible directions. And if you consider this particular sphere to be of unit measurement, unit dimensions, like 1 meter, 1 centimeter, whatever one unit of length, it will represent a displacement of a certain unit, or 1 meter, 1 centimeter, 1 kilometer, whatever. And the line which connects the 2 points will represent the direction. So if, let's say, the particular point has moved along this direction, so what we do is we just find out the point on the sphere which, when connected to the initial position, matches with the direction, and we can just define how far it has moved. So that way, what we'll be able to do is we'll be able to give a good measure of displacement. So what we have done till now, let me reiterate again. We have discussed, or we have found out a way to represent the change of place. And we are right now in the phase of testing or understanding the logical solution that we have found. So what we have done is we have found a way to represent that logical solution and also a shorthand. that just this that earlier what we thought was we will use lines in order to draw lines and connect initial and final position, but now we have a better way just to decide the direction and describe the distance that it has to move along that direction. So we have progressed to a certain level. Now the next step will be to understand this further, to test this idea even more. What I mean to say is, let's take an example of another quantity, like weight. So weights, what we can do with weights? We can add weight, we can subtract weight, like we can remove a particular weight, we can compare weights, we can find ratios of weights. Can we do all those things with this particular quantity? Well, we'll have to find out. And that will be the topic of the next video. So thank you for watching, and please let me know how you felt about it. Do you have any questions? I'll be most happy to answer. Thank you for watching the video, guys. Please do like, share, subscribe, and comment. And let me know how you felt. See you again in the next video. Thank you.